right, my friends, welcome back. This is going to be part 122 of my presentation on the flood in Noah's Ark. And in this video here, guys, I am going to go over the last location where some think that Noah's Ark may be. Now, this location here is down in the valley of Mount Ararat. It's about supposedly 15 to 17 miles from Mount Ararat. It was really made famous by the late Ron Wyatt, and what his wife still has a YouTube. Well, she's got a YouTube channel dedicated to Ron Wyatt. Lots of videos there. I will put a link in the description below that you can go straight to that YouTube channel and see all the videos that they got. Now, Ron Wyatt was probably the Indiana Jones of biblical archaeology. He went out exploring all types of stuff. I think Sodom and Gomorrah, and he is claimed to have actually found the Ark of the Covenant also. And I've got several of his videos, and so it's a remarkable, some of the things, even though that he did claim to have found it, he didn't actually produce it. He left it where it was, and then supposedly some of the locals, religious leaders or what have you, went in and retrieved it, if my memory serves me right. And so, but he said that he found it. He found it, and he took some photographs. They're kind of blurry, but again, these are some of, he's found all types of stuff. The Red Sea crossing, they were, supposedly they had actually found some wheels, chariot wheels, where the Egyptian army drowned. And so he's quite a remarkable person, seems to be extremely humble individual. And I would have loved to just sat down and talk with him. But he has a museum in Tennessee that I was able to along with my family, we were able to go view and take a look at. We were the only ones there, and some of Ron Wyatt's people that were running the place showed us, and so I was able to see that. What he did is he took a gas station that had closed down, and he converted it to a museum. That's pretty cool. That's thinking outside the box. It really is. And it was really nice. It had all types of stuff, charts, models, videos and stuff. It was really cool. It was really cool to see that. And but we're going to go through this valley, the evidence for it, and then I'm going to give you some problems with it, or some other things that people are stating about this area here. It is actually still being researched, and I'm going to give you, look in the link below, and that's to a group that is currently studying it, and we'll talk about that later. They've been somewhat recently, they've been interviewed about what they're doing. And but I'll talk more about that towards the end of this. But I'm going to try to give you all the information in this one video, and so that way we can move on. After this one, I'm going to be giving some final thoughts about the whole presentation as a whole. But it's coming to an end, guys. Within the next 2 or 3 videos, I should be completely finished with it. And so, but if you'll notice on the screen here, this is the fourth theory that people think might have happened to the ark. It's in the valley. You really have 2 main ones, though. If you remember in the previous videos, we talked about Cuddy, that this Bill Krause is now starting to say that the ark could be on. And so now the Bible does state in Genesis 8:4, and the ark rested in the 7th month upon the mountains of Ararat. Now that is a location and a generalized area is what they're stating. And so instead of the mount, it didn't say the mountain of Ararat. It just said it on the mount, upon the mountains of Ararat. This is a map here. If you'll notice where that arrow is, it's Gimsi or something like that. It's supposed to mean Noah's big boat, or Noah's boat. And here is a sign with that same thing there. And now this was an article that came out from Life magazine, September 5th, 1960. And they questioned, is this Noah's Ark? This boat-shaped object that was photographed. Just reading that article there, right above where it says Noah's Ark, it says, from the air, the ship-shaped outline lies in the center of a landslide on the slope of a mountain that is only 25 miles from the Russian border. The landslides are of recent origin, may have packed thick mud and stones around the strange form. The photo was shot by a Turkish aerial survey plane from 10,000 feet. And so this is an aerial view from 10,000 feet up. And they found this object here, guys, that looks like a boat-shaped object. It really does. It really does. Now, and this is another view of that. And this is another view. And so, it looks like at some point in time, something was there. And so now going on, we talked about the mountains of Ararat. Now it's called Doomsday Mountain or Sisnakidag. And that right there is that area where I got the red circle around. It's 12 to 15 miles south of Mount Ararat. Mount Ararat can still be seen from the site. The nearest body of water is 75 miles southeast and 100 miles north. And so there you go there. Now, in 1960, an expedition went to the site, blew several holes in the formation, and concluded that there was nothing of any archaeological interest at the site. So they abandoned it. And this Dr. Arthur Brandenberger said, I have no doubt at all that this object is a ship. In my career, I have never seen an object like this on stereo photo. In my opinion, further study of this peculiar symmetrical phenomenon should be made by an expert in tectonics. Dr. William Shea believed that the site also needed more research and that it was quite possible that the formation was a place where the boat, Noah's Ark, had landed and had decayed, leaving its imprint in the mountainside. And if you look at this photograph here, ark ribs are exposed after the 1978 earthquake. And so you got before the 1978 earthquake above, and then you got after the 1978 earthquake. And if you'll notice on the edges, go over to the right of the picture where this object kind of goes up, and you could see a symmetrical pattern of things sticking out of the ground. It's absolutely incredible, I will say that. And so Ron Wyatt returned in 1979 after the earthquake. It's like the earthquake did some of the excavation work for them. And there was a split running right through the middle of that thing. And you can see I got a bracket there where that split is. And the split goes down a certain portion of it there. And scans show a rectangular shapes inside the boat. There's a tunnel that goes from the tip right down to the middle and is big enough to walk through. They said that there's an area, a space, right where you see my white line at. I'm thinking that's the area they're talking about. that there's an area through there, the scans are showing, that's big enough for a person to walk around in there. They said there is actually a cavity inside of that thing that you could walk around in. The formation had a carbon content of 4.95%, showing that it was once living matter. A sample was also taken from just the outside of the formation, and the carbon content was 1.88%. The formation also had an iron content of 11.55%, which was higher than the 0.77% of that just outside of it. Ron found 13 lines of consistent metal readings along the along the length of the object. And so, again, more evidence. Now, this right here, if you see those lines, I'm wanting to say they made those lines with a shovel. They kind of scraped it. I'm thinking that's what they did, guys. They scraped that away. I don't know if it's to match the ribs on the inside. They're on the outside of it here. But I'm thinking they made those patterns there to match up what was on the inside, but they did that with a shovel, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what happened there. And so, but I will say there's something here. There is something here. I do know that. Now, what they're stating, if you'll notice, you've got those pictures, two pictures over to the left top. They're saying this right here is most likely what that is there. And the deck and joist, deck support timbers, they're saying that's possibly what this is here. And you've got kind of the drawings there of what they believe it is matching up with what's below that. And you see those arrows pointing to objects. There is something there. There is something there that has a pattern to it. I will say that. There is definitely something there, and we're going to talk about that. But this is what they're saying that it happened, that the ark basically fell in upon itself. It kind of just, the outsides came open, and the top just kind of fell in on itself. And here's some more of those shapes there, showing something is there. Something is definitely there. Here's some more here. It's a pattern. There's a pattern to it. They found fossilized rivet and patterned metal readings. Patterned metal readings, excuse me. Iron rivets were found at the ark site. Now, they're calling it the ark site. I'm just calling it what they're calling it, okay? And so these are some of those things that they found. And people say, well, there wasn't iron before the flood. Well, in Genesis 4:22, it says, and Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Now, this was before the flood. And again, this right here is what they believe the object would be shaped, the shape of it would have been like, and that the sides came open and it kind of just collapsed in on itself, is what they're saying. And the government, they said, hey, well, that sounds good to us. And so they confirmed this is Noah's Ark, is what they did. This is on June 20th, 1987. The Turkish government established the new Noah's Ark National Park following confirmation by a government commission of the investigative work on a site by the American Ronald E. Wyatt. And so, again, you know, that's what they're stating. And so what they did is they built a visitor center there. And there's the visitor center there. Now, the length of the ark was 300 cubits, and the breadth 50 cubits, and the height of it was 30 cubits. Now, if Moses was learned in all of the wisdom of the Egyptians, would he have used a different length of cubit other than what the common or the Hebrew would have been? I don't know. This is something that's just thrown out, guys. Did he use an Egyptian long? If he used an Egyptian long, that would change the length of the ark. And what they did is they did a measurement, and it was 515 feet, which would be 300 Egyptian long cubits. And so, for what it's worth, that's what they found out when they measured it. Now, this is something too. The Bible is silent on this. It doesn't say anything about having anchor stones or drogue stones, but they did find these stones. From what I understand, it seems like somebody was arguing against these stones because they were found a number of miles or distance away from the ark. I don't know. That's just some of the arguments that's been stated about it. But they found these stones near the area. And the argument against stated that these were just gravestones that had been also found around the area. And so, but we're going to look at some aspects about these things. They have a hole in them. Now, this right here is what drogue stones, your average size drogue stones would be, or anchor stones would be. And but these were some big ones, and they said it sure does look like anchor stones, or AKA drogue stones. And so that's the size of what they were finding. And so these things were massive, and they had a curved hole. These giant rocks had curved holes drilled through the top. The bigger the rocks, have a bigger holes, and they're not really sure, but they think they might have been anchor stones. Again, the Bible is silent on that. Does it say anything about Noah having to use them? Now, this is what an average size drogue stone would look like compared to what they believe the anchor stones to be. And they had crosses. There were crosses that were carved on these things. And what's really amazing is that on one of the stones they found 8 crosses, and they believe what you see right here. This is what it was. The big one was Noah. The one below that was Noah's wife, and then you got his 3 sons and their 3 wives. Their three wives, which would equal out to 8 people. And so, a little interesting there. And so these are some more crosses, and they have the Byzantine or Crusader style crosses on them. And so they believe these were carved after they were found, and people just kind of want to memorialize the stones this way. And so but they got crosses carved all over them, and there's one there that's broken up. And this would have been what the drogue stones would have done. They would have kind of stabilized the ark, and then in the wind, it would keep it from capsizing. And so, again, a stabilization type of thing. Remember, they weren't trying to go anywhere. They're just trying to float. Again, the Bible is silent about these drogue stones or anchor stones. The Lord never told them, to put any stones on there. And so, again, this is all just speculation about the anchor stones and the drogue stones. And they have found them around the area. Now, this right here, they believe, is possibly a grave site. What was believed to have been in tombstones were found by themselves near the ruins of a structure, possibly a home, possibly a house. And carvings of crosses were on top of other previous carvings. And what they believe these carvings was this right here. This right here is just a reproduction of what is believed to be on the supposed tombstones. After the team left these graves, these graves were dug up by somebody. Somebody dug them up. And the man's on the stones there, the man and the woman's head was bowed and eyes were closed. So they think that might have been representation of Noah and his wife. The woman's head was bowed and the eyes were closed. And so, again, that's what they believe, that this is the graves of Noah and his wife. And now in this museum here, the Wyatt Archaeological Museum, again, my family and I got a chance to see this. This is that archaeological museum. Again, from what I understand, it was a convenience store, a gas station that was converted into this museum, which was quite cool. We got a chance to walk around it and see inside this thing, and this is what they believe the ark would look like. And so this thing right here is huge. It's a big model, huge model, and they actually let me hold some of what they believe is timber from Noah's Ark. And so, is that Noah's Ark there? And so, I don't know. I don't know, but they let me hold it. And so that right there was, of course, it was turned to stone there. And but I was like, yeah, sure. And so they said, you want to hold some of the wood of what we believe is Noah's Ark? And it was, but that right there I have in my hand was found at that site, was from that site in the valley. And so really just amazing. And this is another possibility what they believe the ark may look like. And so I don't know, it's a possibility. Now, Dr. Carl Ball, if you'll get up with his museum, maybe send him an email, maybe look on his website. There has been speculation there. Well, I guess he's got some evidence that this site here was a fortress. I think it's called the Timur Fortress. And that supposedly, if on a certain type of, if you're taking a picture of it, there's another structure that connects to this one here that they believe would have been where horses were stalled in. And it seems like and again, guys, I'm kind of going off the top of my head here, on what I've read and heard, that this ruler or king or dictator or whoever he wasn't a very good person at all, and that he had another building structure or a place where he housed young boys, and so again, I'm going just off the top of my head on this, and so if I am wrong, just have mercy on me. And so I'm thinking though that was something like that this right here they're saying wasn't the ark, that it was actually a fortress. Now, there's others that say that this formation, there were other formations that was like this, and that you get this formation when lava comes down, and if it was like to hit a big rock, it would cause the lava to split and then come back together going down a little bit. Possibility. I think it's kind of wild that, this is just me thinking off the top of my head here, it's kind of wild that it came down in the measurements of what would be 300 Egyptian cubits. So, I don't know, with the patterns of ribs that seems to be in the middle of this thing, I don't, to me, that seems a little bit far-fetched, though supposedly there were two other formations that was similar to this one right here. And so, and that's what has led other people to believe, lastly, that it is nothing more than just a geological formation. But again, there seems to be some type of patterns there, or symmetrical patterns of something in there like ribs. I don't know. It's just, out of all the places that claim to have Noah's Ark, the valley has produced more than anybody else. And so, because the Bible states it was in the mountains of Ararat, and then you got this formation here that seems to give a pattern of something there. Whether it's it or not, guys, is another thing. There's not much left of it, which would fall along with, in the time period of 44 to 4,500 years ago. And so, out of all the locations that supposedly claims to have had the ark, this one here seems to give more evidence showing something. whether it's the ark or another of something else, period. It seems to have something there. And so now, lastly, this is what Answers in Genesis says the ark looked like, which was much different than Ron Wyatt's ark. And then on the last thing, in the meantime, it's got to be here somewhere. You got the ark sticking up like a sore thumb. And so, but guys, we're going to stop right there. Now, if you'll notice in the links below, there's another group. Let me look at my notes here. I've got them in my notes. I should have had them ready. Here we go. There is a group, NoahsArkScans.com. NoahsArkScans.com. I'll have a link in the description below. They have a website, and they also have some videos also. And then I'm going to have the YouTube channel for for Ron Wyatt in the description below also. Now, Ron Wyatt's wife is still alive, and she's running this YouTube channel showing all of Ron Wyatt's old videos, stuff, and evidences and archaeological discoveries and all different types of things and presentations that he did. And she is upset at these other people, the NoahsArkScans.com that's running that. She's upset with them because she said, hey, my husband already said that it was the ark. And she's claiming that these people here are trying to build their ministry upon what Ron Wyatt has done. And he's already done everything. And that these other people are just doing it for money. I don't know. And so I will say this, that these other people are the ones that are claiming that there is a tunnel or a cavity in the middle of that object. They said it's shown in the scans that you could actually open it up and walk down in there. It's big enough for that. That would really be cool if they could get down there and prove that. And really kind of clarify this thing. I mean, do they actually have it? Now, they're pretty confident that they got Noah's Ark. They are pretty confident this is it. I don't know. All they have to do is get down in there. But of course, it being an archaeological, supposedly an archaeological historic type of thing, I'm sure permits and they got to get certain approval to do certain things and before they start digging around in there. But if they can, then that may prove to be, some amazing evidence. They do tours in that area, and so and they are trying to drum up financial support. So I will say that. But if you go to their website, they're pretty in depth on what they got, for that. And so, but just give them an opportunity, guys. And so with anything, you gotta be cautious, on who you start following and who you start throwing money to. And so at least look at their evidence, see what they got before you start judging them. And but I do know that Ron Wyatt's wife is pretty upset with him because she said, my husband already made the discovery. And so it doesn't mean anything. I mean, all these other discoveries are supposed sightings of the ark on Ararat, and other people go out there. They're not trying to build upon the next person. They're just taking the evidence that was there. And because of technology and stuff like that has advanced, maybe they're able to do some things at the site that the previous person wasn't able to do. Like Ron Wyatt, he was doing research many decades ago. And so now look what technology has came to. And so they're able to look at the site in a different way that maybe Ron wasn't able to. So I think she needs to be a little bit more open-minded in this area than to pass judgment on them so quickly. And so, because that's going to hinder good research and possibly more discoveries. And so, but I'm keeping an open mind. And so, on both locations. even the Mount Cuddy. I'm actually keeping an open mind on there. It would be cool if they could find something. But then again, if they don't, I'm cool with it too. And so, but guys, that is the evidence for my presentation. That's everything that I have. We're looking at 122 videos. And so when I come back, I'm going to give you the closing remarks on this. Should only take about 2 videos, maybe 2 videos. I might be able to go through it in 1 video. You never know. But we're going to kind of finalize this thing, and then I'll tell you what's coming up after this. All right. You guys take care. I love you. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.